Hello everyone, my name is Roya, and today I am redoing the A to Z book tag. So the A to Z book tag was actually the very first Booktube video that I ever did, and recently Adrian from the channel Share Inspired Journey Dream tagged me to do this, and I've actually been meaning to redo it, just because it's been 2.5 years now that I've been on Booktube, and I figured it would be cool to redo the first tag that I ever did, because my answers will be completely different. So here we go. A. Author you've read the most books by. I don't think this answer has changed. It's probably still either Stephen King or Raymond Chandler. It has since occurred to me that it might also be Philippa Gregory, because I've read at least like 10 books by each of those people. I think that it could also be Mercedes Lackey by this point. Like, once I read a couple more of her books, I'll have read at least 10 of her books. I've like lost count. Best sequel ever, right now, I really want to say Firebrand by Kristen Britton, which is the 6th book in the Green Rider series that I just read it because it just came out and my library just got it, and I talked about it in my most recent wrap-up, and holy crap, was that sequel amazing. C. Currently reading. I'm actually currently reading like 6 books right now. I put down a couple of them until later, so I'm not going to talk about those, but my current audiobook is The Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin. I'm also about halfway through Mostly Human by D.I. Jolly, and this was sent to me for review, so I will be talking about this book very soon. Arrow's Flight, which is the 2nd book in the Arrows of the Queen trilogy, which is one of the series that I want to finish in 2016. And the other day I started reading Lady of the Forest, which I'm over 100 pages through at this point, and this is a Robin Hood retelling, and I'm loving every minute of this book. D. Drink of choice while reading. Tea, as usual. E-reader or physical book? Physical book all the way. I do have an e-reader, but I so rarely use it, and I never take it with me anywhere, so if I'm reading something on it, I have to pretty much be reading it only at home. Fictional character you probably would have dated in high school. I did not date in high school. Glad you gave this book a chance. The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. I read this for the first round of Diversathon, and what I love about readathons like that is that you kind of look at your shelf and go, hey, what fits this readathon that's on my shelf? And it'll be something that you might not have read that soon otherwise, and then you wind up being really glad that you read it because it really exceeded your expectations. And so this was definitely like a 5-star book for me. I was so glad that I read it. H. Hidden Gem Book. The Dark Queen by Susan Carroll. I don't own a copy of that book because the one time that I read it, I borrowed it from a friend, but I seriously can't stress enough that that book is amazing. I. Important moment in your reading life. Probably the last time that I ever left the house without a book when I was 14, and I so regretted not bringing a book with me. Because I didn't take my glasses either, so I couldn't see anything. I was at the mall with my sister and a friend, and I got separated from them, and I was like, well, what can I do without my glasses? I don't know. If I had brought a book, I could sit here and, like, read it until my dad came to pick us up, but, oh well. So I was, like, bored out of my mind because I didn't bring a book. And that moment is important to my reading life because since then, I have never gone anywhere without a book, and that's part of why I end up finishing books so quickly. J. Just finished. The last book that I finished was Arrows of the Queen, the first book in the Arrows of the Queen trilogy. Kinds of books you won't read. Boring ones. I mean, there really isn't like a genre that I won't read. I pretty much read every genre that I can think of. I mean, I guess I don't read new adult, and I don't read self-help, but I pretty much read everything else. Like, I don't know. So anything that seems like it's gonna be really boring, like, that's the kind of thing I don't read. L. Longest book you've read. I am not really sure about that. I've read several books that are like over 1,000 pages at least, so maybe Anna Karenina. I'm really not sure what the longest book that I've ever read is, but that one's among the longest. Major book hangover because of no book at the moment. I'm not very prone to book hangovers, to be honest. Number of bookcases you own. 4. I have 3 in my room and 1 in the living room that's full of half my books and half my fiance's books. 1 book you have read multiple times. This. Okay, the first time I read this, the first 2 times I read this were within a month of each other. Preferred place to read. On the sofa with my doggies. Quote that inspires you or gives you all the feels from a book. I'm not completely sure. I do have a lot of quotes that I like from books. One of my first Booktube videos was a video just of me reading quotes from Raymond Chandler, and that is actually one of my most watched videos to this day somehow. I still get comments on it now, even though that video is over 2 years old. So I'm not completely sure. But one quote that I really like is from the book Little Big by whoever it's by, I don't remember. And that quote talks about like something that can transcribe words that are written down, but it can't abbreviate when the abbreviation ST means street or saint, and it says, when directed to expand these abbreviations, it comes up with the 7th Saint Bar and Grill and the Church of All Streets. And for some reason, like, even thinking about that quote cracks me up sometimes, like, even now. And I read that book, like, 5 years ago or more. Reading Regret. Bullet Catcher by Joaquin Lowe. I did not like that book. It really, it was barely a 2-star read for me. Like, it wasn't bad enough to give 1 star to, but it just was terrible. I really wish that I hadn't read it, honestly. And that was a book that I'd actually bought, like, new. And that sucks. Do you know how many books I buy new? Like, none. And yet, I actually bought that book. And just because it sounded cool and it was cheap. And so then, yeah, it ended up sucking. And that bothered me, and I really regretted it. Series you started and need to finish. And for this question, it has to be a book where a series where all the books are out. I'm going to have to say, for lack of repeating myself and saying Arrows of the Queen, I'm going to say The Land of the Elderlings, because those are all out now, I think. Assassin's Fate, the very last book in the entire series of series, came out recently, or is about to come out, or something like that, and so, I've only read the first trilogy so far. 3 of your all-time favorite books. For this, I'm going to pick On a Pale Horse by Piers Anthony, The Big Lie by Julie Mayhew, and The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. Unapologetic fangirl for, I guess most recently it would have to be the Demon Child trilogy by Jennifer Fallon. Very excited for this release more than all the others. I have to go with One Dark Throne by Kendar Blake because I really want to see who dies and who lives, and this has actually been expanded to a 4-book series instead of just a duology, and so now that it's a quartet and not a duology, I think I'm going to have to wait until the 4th book to find out who actually lives and who dies, but I'm still really, really excited. Worst bookish habit. I have this weird habit of scratching the pages when there's, like, stuff stuck in the pages. You know how on some types of paper, there will be, like, random debris in there, just naturally as, like, part of the paper, and when there's, like, a lot of it, I just have the need to, like, scratch it and get it out. And so when people lend me books and I want to make sure that I don't do that, I have to, like, wear gloves while I'm reading, basically. X marks the spot. Start from the top left of your bookshelf and pick the 27th book. The 27th book on my bookshelf is Queen's Gambit, which is a novel about Catherine Parr, who was the last wife of Henry VIII and the one who, like, outlived him, or one of 2 who outlived him, honestly. Like, he divorced Anne of Cleves and she was still alive, but, like, all the other ones died. And honestly, like, probably besides Anne of Cleves, like, she's my favorite one, so I'm definitely, like, every time someone writes a novel about Catherine Parr, I'm like, ooh, yay, someone actually wrote about her, because no one ever does. I've read like one book about her, but I've read like 12 books about what's-her-face, Anne Boleyn. Your latest book purchase. My latest book purchase was actually 3 books, because recently, as you will find out in my book haul coming up soon, I went to this place called Bingo's Used Books, which, dare I say it, is almost as awesome as Powell's. And I got a bunch of books, and then 2 days later, like on my next work day, I went back with some books to trade for more books because I had seen yet more books there that I wanted to get. So I got Dream Snake, Guinevere, and The Winter Prince. These 2 are both Arthurian retellings, and this is a sci-fi thing that has come highly recommended by like a whole bunch of booktubers. So I'm definitely really excited to read all these. And finally, Z Snatcher, the last book that kept you up way too late. Again, this has to be Firebrand, the 6th book in the Green Rider series, because I stayed up until like 10:30 reading that when I had to work the next day, and I meant to go to bed at 9, but since I only had like 100 pages left of the book, I was like, holy crap, what's gonna happen? Because that book was just so good. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what the most important time in your reading life was, and I will see you very soon with a new video. Bye!